Welcome to Untold History, the channel where we explore the events that marked the destiny of humanity and whose repercussions still resonate in our society. Today, we will dive into one of the most complex and fascinating political processes in European history, the unification of Italy. Since the fall of the Roman Empire, the Italian peninsula was made up of a number of small states and kingdoms, largely dominated by foreign powers such as Austria, Spain, and the papacy. During the Renaissance and until the beginning of the 19th century, Italy was a region of great cultural and economic influence, but politically fragmented. The situation of the peninsula was one of political weakness, since there was no unified national identity, which allowed foreign powers to interfere in internal affairs. Throughout the 19th century, the idea of a unified Italy began to take shape, driven by nationalist fervor and the ideas of the revolutionary movements of the time. Unification was not only a process of war, but also of diplomacy, and was marked by figures such as Giuseppe Mazzini, Giuseppe Garibaldi, and King Victor Emmanuel II. How did Italy's fragmentation over the centuries affect its national identity and position in Europe? What role did foreign powers, such as Austria and the papacy, play in delaying the process of Italian unification? How important were the nationalism and revolutionary ideas of the 19th century in the movement towards the unification of Italy? Join us for this analysis that will allow us to answer these questions. In the early 19th century, Italy was divided into numerous small states, many of which were under the control of foreign powers. Northern Italy was under the rule of the Austrian Empire, while the south was controlled by the Kingdom of Naples, and the papacy controlled several territories in the center. In this way, the Italian peninsula was far from being unified. In this context, the French Revolution and the Napoleonic Wars played a crucial role. During the Napoleonic campaigns, Italy was occupied by French forces, which allowed the ideas of the revolution, such as the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity, to spread throughout the Italian territory. After the fall of Napoleon in 1815 and the Congress of Vienna, the European powers decided to restore order in Europe, and the political map of Italy was reorganized, but the fragmentation did not disappear. Northern Italy was annexed by the Austrian Empire, while the south remained under the control of the Bourbons, and the papacy continued to be a major player in the center of the country. However, the idea of a unified Italy began to gain strength thanks to the nationalist movements that emerged after the Napoleonic Wars and the reforms of the French Revolution. Thinkers such as Giuseppe Mazzini were the first to advocate a unified Italy and founded the secret society Young Italy to promote the cause of national unity. In 1848, Italy experienced a series of revolts throughout the European continent, influenced by the revolutionary movements that broke out throughout Europe. These revolts, known as the Revolutions of 1848, were an attempt by Italians to achieve independence and unification. Although these insurrections were put down by conservative forces, the nationalist spirit did not disappear. The failure of these revolts only strengthened the conviction that Italy needed to be unified. The 1850s marked a major shift in Italian history. In this period, the Kingdom of Piedmont-Sardinia, under the leadership of its King Victor Emmanuel II and Prime Minister Camillo di Cavour, became the engine of unification. Cavour, who was a skilled diplomat and strategist, understood that the unification of Italy would only be possible through a combination of diplomacy and war. Rather than directly confront Austria, which dominated much of northern Italy, Cavour chose to form strategic alliances. One of his main actions was the alliance with France, which allowed him to win the war against Austria in the Second War of Independence in 1859. With this victory, Piedmont-Sardinia incorporated Lombardy, a key step towards unification, although the question of papacy participation and opposition from the south remained an obstacle. One of the most prominent figures in this process was Giuseppe Garibaldi, a general and patriot who led a series of military campaigns to unify southern Italy. Garibaldi, along with his army of red shirts, carried out a series of victories in the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies, which was under the control of the Bourbons. In 1860, Garibaldi, with the support of the liberals of the north, conquered the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies and, in a symbolic act, handed over the conquered lands to King Victor Emmanuel II of Piedmont, Sardinia. This alliance between Garibaldi and the Piedmontese monarchy was a decisive step in the process of unification. The Kingdom of Piedmont Sardinia, under the guidance of Cavour, was responsible for consolidating the unification in the north, while the south was gradually integrated thanks to the leadership of Garibaldi. However, the unification was not yet complete. The papacy, which maintained its control over Rome and the surrounding territories, was one of the main obstacles. The Catholic Church was strongly opposed to unification, and tensions between church and the secular state were to be a major issue in the years to come. The process culminated in 1870 when Italian troops took Rome, the last major city not yet part of the new Kingdom of Italy. The capture of Rome was facilitated by the withdrawal of French troops who were protecting the papacy due to the Franco-Prussian War. Rome was eventually incorporated into the Kingdom of Italy, but the Pope refused to recognize the new state and withdrew to the Vatican, where it remained a sovereign enclave. This situation triggered a conflict between the Church and the Italian state that would not be resolved until the Lateran Pax in 1929. The unification of Italy was a long and complex process, full of challenges, tensions, and internal and external conflicts. Although unification consolidated the power of the Piedmontese monarchy and achieved the integration of the peninsula, regional divisions and economic differences between the industrialized north and the agricultural and impoverished south remained persistent issues in Italian politics for many decades. The new Kingdom of Italy faced challenges on its way to political and economic stability, but unification allowed for the creation of a modern state with a national identity of its own. The legacy of Italian unification was the consolidation of a unified nation, which, although plagued by difficulties, marked the beginning of a new era in the country's history. This process, which involved not only military struggle but also astute diplomacy, was an inspiration to other nationalist movements in Europe. Italian unification was a testament to the ability of peoples and popular movements to overcome fragmentation and build a modern nation, although the tensions and difficulties of the process remained present for many years. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of Italian unification. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your comments. We would love to hear your opinion on this significant historical process. See you next time.